2012, the United Nations has set aside October 11th as the International Day of the Girl Child. Now, the focus is to deal and address with needs of the girls. For this year, 2017, it is to look at the life of a girl before, during, and after crisis. Now, this episode of Big Story comes to you from Adamawa State, where there are so many girls who are trying to put the pieces of their lives back together again after the crisis of Boko Haram. You're welcome. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Nigerians will find it hard to forget the active period of Boko Haram in the country, a period when the eyes of the world and almost every major media had its headlines on Nigeria. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs notes that since the start of the conflict in 2009, more than 20,000 people have been killed, thousands of women and girls abducted, and children drafted as suicide bombers. The cost of destroyed homes, infrastructures, and means of livelihood have been estimated at $9 billion by the United Nations. The consequences of the conflict cannot be missed, even when the news of attacks have died down. In the three most affected states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, almost 7 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance, more than 50% of whom are children. An estimated 450,000 children under 5 are suffering from severe acute malnourishment in the three most affected states.
Looking at the experience that the state went through when it had the insurgency crisis, and looking at also conflict situations, you find out that the children are the most vulnerable and they are the most affected, because you find out that they don't have anybody to lean onto. They are based on the protection that will be provided by the adults, either their parents or the concerned adults. So when we looked at the insurgency crisis in Adamawa State affecting the 7 LGS, you find out that children were really affected because some were really killed, some were separated from their parents, some were trafficked, some were violated, and some were abused. So you find out that due to the vulnerability of children, they've experienced much when we had the issue of insurgency in Adamawa State. Looking at the girl child and also the boy child, you find out that we don't treat them separately, but the vulnerability of the girl child is even more because she's more vulnerable when it comes to issues of crisis. With the insurgency, you find out that the girls, as you've rightly said, have been abducted by the insurgents, and some of them are being used as wives, some of them are also being used as cooks, some of them are used as informants within the locality or areas that they operate. So you find out that the girl child is really exposed to much, and some of them have been violated even in the presence of their siblings. So it's really traumatic for the girl child. But you find out that with the government stepping in with the much security that has been built around that area, there's much safety for the girl child, though it's not 100%, because even with up to now, you find out that some of the girls are still going through much violation. But you find out that some of the girls that have been abducted and taken to the camp of the insurgents, some of them do escape and they are returned back. And the government, with the setup of the emergency humanitarian forum that we have in the state, you find out that the protection sector has been in place to ensure that such children, through the Ministry of Women Affairs, are responded to and they are supported, because we have organizations that are in the protection sector that are into it, especially children that are women or girls that have experienced such trauma or violation from the insurgents. Either they are pregnant, they come back with pregnancy, or they come back with children, or a child with another child. So you find out that such children will have to be supported. First of all, when they are rescued, or if they come out willingly, or they escaped and they are found, we have to make sure that clinically they are taken to the hospital or the primary health care, so that they will be checked to ensure that they are not infected. And then if they are pregnant, they continue with the normal processes of ensuring that the pregnancy is safe and also she is safe to deliver. And if it's a child that she's coming up with a small baby, then both the mother and the child will have to be protected, and she's supported with all that she needs to ensure that her dignity is saved.
Up to 2.1 million people fled their homes at the heat of the conflict. And although as of September 2017, according to the United Nations, 1.7 million people displaced in Adamawa, Borno and Yobe State, most IDP camps had to be closed, and some indigents returned to their homes to try and build back their lives. However, not everyone had the luxury of such decision, which is the reason for the existence of Damari settlement in Gire local government area of Adamawa State.
This is called a community camp. When we closed down the NYSC camp, the IDP camp at the NYSC, the location where we used to have our NYSC camp, the IDPs that are there who had opted not to return back to their places because